Yeah, I bet y'all read the title and are already typing, why cover trash? Well, let me stop you right there. I was a young, wide-eyed anime fan once, and I'll say it, I liked Sword Art Online when it first came out. Go ahead, judge me, I don't care. And that's exactly why we're talking about it here on the Amagi. Welcome to the Amagi. If you're a fan of the video, please be sure you're subscribed, cause only 25% of y'all are, and I would very much appreciate it. Anyway, let's get into the video. Now, before we dive in, some fundamental knowledge is needed. Sword Art Online introduces a futuristic version of VR that lets players experience full senses in virtual reality. This isn't the VR we know and tolerate today, you know, headsets that barely stay on your head, clunky hand tracking, accidentally hitting someone because you don't know where your hands are, and if someone walks right behind you, well, good luck to them. Nope, this is full-on brain signal manipulation, but what is kind of similar to real life are the VR helmets, which are needed to access these virtual worlds. Also, one more thing, I will only be talking about the main Sword Art Online anime series. I'm also ignoring Ordinal Scale because I don't believe that's canon. Anyway, let's talk about the entire history of Sword Art Online, I guess. And we have to take it back to the year 2021. Argus, a tech company, announces a shiny new device called the Nerve Gear. It's a second generation VR headset with full dive technology, promising full immersion. And no, this isn't a cheap marketing gimmick, it's legit. So legit that even the military starts using it for training simulations. That's how real it is, that's how legit we're talking. Now, by 2022, the public finally gets their hands on the Nerve Gear device, and it doesn't take long for developers to pump out immersive games for the thing. Enter Sword Art Online. Developed by Argus, which is also the developer of the Nerve Gear tech, it launches a closed beta test in August of 2022. This is where our boy Kazuto Kirigaya, aka Kirito, comes in. Being the gamer that he is, Kirito joins the beta, soaking up all the gameplay mechanics like a sponge, and remembering a lot of what the beta has to offer. This comes into play later in the show. The beta wraps up after a month, but fans don't have to wait long because by October, Sword Art Online is officially released, and in November, the servers go live. Naturally, Kirito, the OG shut-in, dives right in. Thousands of players log in at launch, which, for a VR game, is impressive. I mean, look at the numbers of our VR games. We barely get people playing. So yeah, 10,000? Very healthy. Everything seems perfect until, surprise, the logout button is missing. That's right, no one can leave, and since the Nerve Gear intercepts brain signals, you can't even tell your body to yank it off your head. Seriously, who quality controlled this? Who approved this? Did the Japanese government even look at this and think to themselves, okay, this is a bad idea? No, it was released to the public. Anyway, 10,000 players are now trapped in the game and are suddenly summoned for a special message from the game's creator, Akihiko Kayaba. Turns out, this dude disabled the logout button on purpose because he's going on the mother of all power trips. Player avatars are also reverted back to their IRL appearances because of mandatory face and body scans while setting up Nerve Gear. Kayaba even drops the bombshell. If you die in the game, you die in real life. Also, if anyone tries to remove the Nerve Gear from your head, congratulations, you have just died because of a microwave. Suffice to say, panic ensues. The only way out of the game is to beat the game, which means conquering all 100 floors of Aincrad, the floating castle of doom in the sky. People in the beta didn't even get that far. What follows is 2 years of survival in this VR MMO RPG of death. Now, Kirito meets a colorful cast of characters in those 2 years. There's Klein, the chill bro he helps on day one, Sachi, a sweet and timid girl that he falls for, and, spoiler alert, she dies really early into the games, and it cues Kirito's emo arc. Lisbeth, the sarcastic blacksmith who makes him a second sword, Silica, whom Kirito says reminds him of his little sister in the real world, Egil, just a cool dude, and Asuna, the badass gamer girl who becomes one of the top players and Kirito's future girlfriend. She joins the Knights of the Blood Oath, the most elite guild in the game. Meanwhile, in the real world, the Sword Art Online debacle bankrupts Argus, and Rect Inc. swoops in to take over the servers. Rect eventually develops the Amusphere, a safer version of the Nerve Gear that won't fry your brain. They also launch Alfheim Online in that time, but we'll get to that later. In any case, it's now 2024. Kirito, who had been playing the game as a lone wolf, has been forcibly recruited into the Knights of the Blood Oath, and literally on his first mission, one of the members, who's actually one of the in-game player killers, tries to murder him. Asuna saves Kirito. Because of this, Kirito and Asuna are given time off, and they both spend it together at a cottage, living in their own slice-of-life anime. It's there that they encounter Yui, an AI girl who was originally an admin for players in the game. Kirito and Asuna adopt her as their in-game daughter. However, a few days later, while traversing a dungeon, Yui is forced to use her admin powers and helps delete a boss. The game system doesn't like that, deletes Yui, but not before Kirito manages to save her data. But there's no time to grieve, because the Knights of the Blood Oath have been called in to defeat the next floor boss. Kirito and Asuna report in, and thanks to the power of teamwork, the floor boss is defeated. But wait, there's still boss music. Well, turns out that the guild leader for the Knights, Heathcliff, was Kayaba all along, and the final boss of the game. So yeah, dude kills Asuna and tries to do the same with Kirito, but since Kirito is the main character, he manages to finish off Heathcliff, successfully beating Sword Art Online. Oh, and Asuna's actually not dead. She's alive because Kirito defeated Heathcliff not too long after she died in-game, so her brain didn't get fried yet. In any case, the game has now been beat and everyone wakes up. Or so we thought. In comes Alfheim Online, the Fairy Dance arc. While Kirito and a bunch of players wake up from the nightmare that was Sword Art Online, not everyone was so lucky. Some players are still trapped in VR, including Asuna. For months after waking up, Kirito visits Asuna in the hospital, hoping she'll open her eyes. On one of these visits, he meets Sugo Nobuyuki, the chief of Rect Inc.'s Research Institute. Oh, and did I mention Sugo is also Asuna's fiancé? Not by her choice, of course. Asuna's family is loaded, and this is more about money and power than love. Sugo, being the slimeball that he is, sees Kirito as nothing but a pest and smugly declares his plan to marry Asuna before strutting off. Meanwhile, Kirito meets up with Aegel, who shows him a screenshot taken in a VR game called Alfheim Online, ALO for short. The screenshot reveals an elf girl who looks suspiciously like Asuna, trapped in a cage at the top of the World Tree, this big tree in the middle of Alfheim Online. Kirito wastes no time and buys himself a copy of ALO, diving headfirst into the game because subtlety isn't his strong suit. Since ALO uses Sword Art Online as a template, a lot of Kirito's stats transfer over. Bonus, Yui's data comes along too, and she becomes his tiny little floating personal assistant. Early in the game, Kirito meets another player named Lifa, and the two team up to fend off some rowdy players. Kirito, on a mission to reach the World Tree, convinces Lifa to help him out, and the duo sets off on their adventure. The next day, Kirito and Lifa head for the World Tree. Along the way, they stop to prevent two groups of players from getting third-partied. Unlike Sword Art Online, ALO isn't life or death, so everyone has a laugh and makes friends before parting ways. Meanwhile, at the top of the World Tree, Asuna is living the ultimate nightmare. She's trapped in a cage by Oberyn, who, big shocker, is actually Sugo in his virtual form. Sugo and his team transferred several SAO survivors to ALO for some shady experiments on their minds. Asuna is one of those victims, partly because she refused to accept Sugo's IRL engagement, so Sugo, being the creep that he is, takes great pleasure in having Asuna at his mercy. Once he leaves, Asuna attempts to escape, and she manages to swipe an admin card, but unfortunately gets caught. Back to Kirito. He finally reaches the base of the World Tree. Yui senses that Asuna is trapped at the top, so Kirito attempts to scale the tree. Surprise, there's an invisible barrier that makes it impossible. I don't know why the dude would try to fly up, because he was told to stop and don't try it. He's so dumb sometimes. Yui calls out to Asuna, who drops the stolen admin key to help Kirito get past the barrier. Kirito tries again, this time from inside the tree, but the game isn't having it. There are a bunch of monsters that spawn, and they are too strong and overwhelm Kirito. So Kirito's in-game character gets killed. Lifa has to save him, and retrieves Kirito's remain soul, which is basically like a respawn token, and revives him. While trying to comfort Kirito, Kirito blurts Asuna's name, which is how Lifa learns the name of the girl he's trying to save. Now, cue the dramatic realization as Lifa figures out that Kirito is her brother/cousin, Kazuto. Lifa is Suguha. Kirito also realizes that Lifa is actually Suguha, and oh my god, the dangers of online personas are here. It's like, bro, you guys are literally in rooms next to each other, and you guys don't realize that you are playing with each other. It's crazy. They both log off to process this really awkward revelation, but they have a heartfelt talk instead, and the next day, with the air cleared, they return to scale the World Tree, because of course Suga is going to help her older brother. Thanks to teamwork and the friends they made along the way, Kirito finally reaches the top. However, the gate is locked, but Kirito uses the admin key to break through and get closer to Asuna. Kirito arrives just in time to face Sugo, who, as the game's admin, is basically a walking cheat code. Sugo, in true villain fashion, pauses to monologue about his evil plans. He then uses his admin powers to take control of the situation and suppress Kirito. And as if you didn't already want to punch your screen watching this part, he starts to quote-unquote play with Asuna in-game like the truly despicable human that he is. But it's not all despair. Kirito has a surreal mid-fight chat with Kayaba Akihiko, who is in his mind for some reason, and Kayaba gives him access to admin powers. And armed with these new admin powers, Kirito flips the script, wipes the floor with Sugo, and turns off his pain dampener so Sugo feels every single hit. Thank God. Defeated and humiliated, Sugo vows revenge before finally being destroyed in-game. Kirito frees Asuna, and the two finally log out. But before that, Kirito talks to Kayaba, who is still hanging out in cyberspace for some reason. Kayaba hands Kirito the World Seed, which is essentially the VR game engine that created SAO. It's kind of like Unreal or Unity, but with fewer ethical boundaries, and I don't know what I'm talking about. I am not a developer. Anyway, Kirito and Asuna try to have a loving reunion in real life, but Sugo, proving he's the sorest of losers, ambushes Kirito in a hospital parking lot. Kirito, because he's Kirito, beats him up without breaking a sweat, and everyone's happy again. Afterwards, Kirito returns to help Leafa and their fairy friends create a peaceful fantasy world. Suguha wisely lets go of her awkward crush on her cousin brother, thank goodness, and the two go back to being regular old family. Kirito, now armed with the World Seed, begins laying the groundwork for VR worlds that are fun, immersive, and most importantly, don't kill people. Oh, and because they can now, they brought back Castle Ankrat and sword skills and put them in ALO for some reason, because you'd think that bringing back the source of their trauma would be a bad thing, but I guess not. You can't see me, but I'm shrugging so hard right now. It's Gun Gale time. While SAO and ALO were popular in their own right, a new game emerged from the shadows to become one of the most popular in the world, and half of that is because you can do shady stuff like money laundering and whatnot. That game is Gun Gale Online. One of the game's big tournaments approaches, the Bullet of Bullets. Stupid name, but whatever. At a random in-game bar, a dude in a mask approaches one of the monitors showing off a pre-tournament interview. He does a little evil monologue, tells the world his name is Deathgun, and shoots the monitor. Of course, everybody in the bar kind of laughs at the guy, because this dude was definitely overacting, but all of a sudden, the guy in the monitor dies, and now everybody's all serious. But what does that have to do with Kirito? Well, before a date with his previously online and real-life girlfriend, Asuna, Kirito is called in by a government official investigating the Deathgun incident. Now, you would think that Kirito and Asuna would just call it a day and live out their lives making lovey-dovey with one another, but no! Kirito is attracted to this mysterious case like a moth to a flame. He accepts the case and joins Gun Gale Online to take part in the Bullet of Bullets. Problem is, Kirito doesn't know what the hell he's doing. That's when Sinon comes in. See, Sinon is the sniper queen with a tragic backstory. What happened? Well, her past involves her shooting a bank robber in self-defense, and now she has PTSD. Now she plays GGO to get over that trauma. I don't know how that works, but she shoots things in GGO in hopes to get over the trauma. Hooray. In any case, Kirito enlists Sinon to help him out, and she does. Kirito, who has never touched a gun before, immediately masters laser swords because of course he does. And they both join the Bullet of Bullets before the deadline. Kirito, using his kinda small brain, decides that it's a good idea to use his username, Kirito, instead of an alias to join. Not only that, but in his matches, which are broadcasted by the way, he uses his flashy laser sword. And wouldn't you know it, it catches the attention of Deathgun, who put two and two together, comes up to Kirito and tells him that he knows who Kirito is. He even provides a not-so-subtle hint by showing off his laughing coffin tattoo. I don't know how he managed to get that tattoo from SAO to Gun Gale, unless, you know, VR customization is just like that in this world. Remember Laughing Coffin? They were the ones that tried to kill Kirito when he joined the Knights of the Blood Oath in SAO. Well, Kirito realizes who this person potentially is, has a PTSD flashback, and for the rest of the tournament, coming down with a bit of the shakes. Kirito and Sinon make it to the final of the Bullet of Bullets tournament, which culminates in a chaotic battle royale. Amid explosions, drama, and some very real-life casualties, the duo deduces Deathgun's true identity. He's actually two people working together. A duo of death, if you will. Very cool. Very concerning. In the final showdown, Kirito and Sinon outsmart Deathgun in-game, with Kirito dealing the final blow. And to ensure both their names are listed as winners, Sinon hands Kirito a grenade and hugs him, ensuring that they go out with a bang. Literal team goals. Back in the real world, Sinon gets a surprise visit from her friend Kyoji Shinkawa. He seems friendly enough at first, but surprise, he's actually the other half of Deathgun and tries to assault her. Before things escalate, Kirito bursts in to save the day. The two team up to subdue Kyoji, with Sinon grabbing whatever's handy. Possibly a microwave, because I kind of forgot what she grabbed. I'm doing this all by memory. It's ridiculous, but it works. Kyoji gets knocked out and is taken to custody, proving once again that crime doesn't pay, especially when Kirito's around. The next day, Sinon confronts her fears by standing up to her real-life bullies, who for some reason thinks it's a good idea to bring a gun and point it at someone, but thankfully, the gun is fake. Later, Sinon grabs the gun from them, shows how badass she is, and then walks away, finally standing up to her bullies. Later, she joins Kirito to chat with Kikuoka, where they uncover the involvement of a third Deathgun accomplice. But hey, that's a problem for future Kirito. For now, Kirito brings Sinon to meet Asuna and the gang, offering her a supportive new circle of friends. To cap things off, Kirito introduces Sinon to the bank teller she saved during her traumatic past. The teller, alive and thriving with a daughter of her own, thanks Sinon for her heroism, giving her the closure she needed to finally move forward. Caliber and Mother's Rosario. After a job well done, Kirito and the gang, now featuring Sinon, decide to tackle some side quests in ALO. One involves retrieving the Holy Sword Excalibur and saving the game's world tree from freezing over. They battle a giant named Thrym and his frosty minions, and in the end, Sinon saves the day by catching Excalibur midair. Quest complete, world saved, GG team. But it's not over yet, because now it's Asuna's turn to be the main character, to prove that she's more than just another girl in Kirito's harem. This time, she's got her own challenges, including a meddling mom who disapproves of Kirito and is pushing for an arranged marriage because the last one went so well, right? Frustrated, Asuna turns to gaming for some stress relief. While playing ALO, she meets Yuki, an insanely skilled gamer who she challenges to a duel. Asuna just barely holds her own, and it's Yuki that calls off the match and invites her to join the guild because her goal was to find someone that can join her guild momentarily so that they can defeat the floor boss. So, Asuna joins the Sleeping Knights. Their mission? Defeat the new Aincrad floor boss and get their names inscribed on the Monument of Swordsmen, creating new memories. With Asuna's help, they pull off the win and achieve their goal, but here's the heartbreaker. The Sleeping Knights are all terminally ill, and this was their way of making one final unforgettable memory before disbanding. Asuna had no idea. Yuki, afraid of dragging Asuna deeper into her struggles, cuts off all contact with Asuna and the Sleeping Knights. Asuna, ever the determined friend, basically stalks Yuki to her hospital and discovers the truth. Yuki lives her life through a medical VR device because of her condition. Learning that Yuki doesn't have much time left, Asuna commits to spending every moment she can with her, making precious memories in ALO. She even manages to find a way for Yuki to attend school via a camera that's mounted on her shoulder, giving her a glimpse of life outside of VR. In their final meeting, Asuna and Yuki return to the spot in ALO where they first met. Yuki, weak but reflective, wonders aloud why she was born only to die so young. Before she passes, hundreds of ALO players gather to honor her in an emotional farewell. And, surrounded by love and friendship, Yuki dies peacefully in Asuna's arms. Cue the waterworks, because I am about to cry, actually. Whoo! This one's a sad arc. But let's go back to the real world. Asuna works on mending her relationship with her mom. In a bold move, she convinces her mom to dive into ALO with her, because what better way to bond than tossing a parent into a game they definitely won't understand. But despite the awkward start, they meet in-game and Asuna shares heartfelt memories that bring her mom closer to understanding her world. They reconcile, proving that sometimes even virtual worlds can help fix IRL family drama. Alright, enough about Asuna, back to Kirito. This time around, he's picked up a part-time gig testing a new VR system called the Soul Translator, or STL for short. This time, the VR world isn't some game, it's a full-blown simulation of an entire medieval fantasy realm called the Underworld. The twist? The AI here, called Fluct Lights, are so realistic they might as well have real souls. These NPCs have built a legit society, and the whole thing is funded by, you guessed it, the military. It's always the military. Because who else bankrolls world-changing technology with the subtlety of his sledgehammer? So let's talk about the underworld. In the underworld, Kirito befriends two locals, Yu-Gi-Oh, the ultimate cinnamon roll, and Alice, his childhood friend, and future member of his harem. Things take a dark turn when Alice accidentally touches the forbidden dark territory and gets taken away by the Axiom Church, the local overlords of this world. Naturally, this whole VR experiment ends, Kirito returns to the real world, and his memories of the underworld are suppressed because I don't think he is allowed to remember what happens in the underworld. Must be an NDA thing, I can't quite remember. But of course, peaceful Kirito is an oxymoron because one fateful evening while walking Asuna home from a date, Kirito is ambushed by a member of Laughing Coffin. Turns out, this guy is the third accomplice to Death Gun and attacks him. The attack leaves Kirito in a coma, and the only way to save him is to plop him right back into the underworld as part of Project Alicization to repair his mind. In the underworld, Kirito wakes up, lives his life a little bit, and sooner or later teams up with Yu-Gi-Oh to help rescue Alice from the clutches of the Axiom Church, run by Administrator Quinella. Quinella is basically a power-hungry Discord mod with serious God Complex vibes, and she refuses to wear actual clothes for reasons I'll never understand. I don't know, but it makes it really hard to show footage of this. Along their journey, Kirito teaches Yu-Gi-Oh and basically gives him a starter pack of protagonist perks, such as OP movesets and plenty of rule breaking. The duo embarks on a climb up a 100-floor tower, which is packed with Integrity Knights, which are elite fighters turned Quinella's brainwashed puppets. Kirito and Yu-Gi-Oh manage to free some of the knights, including Alice, who promptly joins the party. At the top of the tower, the big showdown with Quinella happens. She's rocking plot armor that rivals Kirito's, and in the climactic battle, Yu-Gi-Oh sacrifices himself and literally turns into a sword. Don't ask. Giving Kirito a second blade. Kirito goes berserk, shreds Quinella's armor with his protagonist energy, and finally takes her down. But wait, there's more! Just as things seem to be wrapping up, sabotage in the real world happens, and power gets turned off, which gives Kirito a serious case of brain damage, leaving him in a vegetative state in-game. Meanwhile, in the real world, Asuna is at the Ocean Turtle, a government base running Project Alicization. Things heat up when a shady organization sends a strike team to steal Alice's Flucklight, which is apparently the holy grail of AI technology. They need this thing. They just need it for research, right? To make things worse, two Laughing Coffin alumni, Vasago and Poe, are part of this invasion. These guys are like cockroaches. They just show up uninvited all the time. Laughing Coffin, go away. Back in the underworld, with Kirito comatose and Yu-Gi-Oh dead, Alice steps up as the new lead. She essentially adopts Kirito as her emotional support protagonist while the world falls apart, and the creatures of the Dark Territory invade, forcing Alice to form a resistance to hold the line. On the other side, Vasago and Poe log into the underworld as villains, rallying IRL players by tricking them into thinking this is a PvP event. Chaos ensues. Meanwhile, Asuna logs in, rallying the good guys and calling in Suga and Xenon, who show up as literal goddesses. They have like the most OP accounts in the underworld. What follows is an escalating war of flashy battles, oversized swords, and power-ups that get more ridiculous by the second. As the war spirals into madness, Alice gets kidnapped again, and Asuna barely holds the fort through sheer determination and caffeine. Then, in a dramatic twist, Kirito finally wakes up. After spending half the arc as a human potato, he gets a power-up montage courtesy of his friends yelling motivational speeches in his mind to wake up. He returns in full protagonist mode, dual-wielding swords, and obliterates everything in his path, and even defeats the bosses. It is so absurd and over the top that the details don't even matter, because he wins through pure main character energy. Anyway, Kirito and Asuna defeat the villains, save Alice, and send Alice's Flucklight to the real world through the World End Altar, which is basically a gateway to the real world. It's like, I don't know how it works. I'm pretty sure it's all fake technology, but that's how it works. It's like a glorified USB drive. But the problem is, because Kirito and Asuna don't make it through themselves, they kind of ran out of time, they spend 200 years in the underworld, ruling as benevolent monarchs and rebuilding society. Eventually, they return to the real world, forgetting all of the memories of what happened in the 200 years they spent in the underworld. And now they have Alice in tow. Alice is basically a robot. The most advanced looking robot ever, but she's a robot in the real world now. The anime ends on a cliffhanger. with our protagonists diving back into the underworld after a massive time skip because, you know, the world of the underworld moves like 1,000 times faster than real life. And it ends with spaceships. So hopefully we get an announcement for the Unital Ring adaptation soon because we are clearly not done with adapting new material. So let's just hope we get more SAO. It is my favorite popcorn anime, and I do not think about it too seriously. Anyway, that is the entire history of Sword Art Online, I guess. I'm pretty sure I got some little bits wrong because I am doing most of this through memory. But if you enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments down below. I kind of want to do more of these because I feel like it's a good way of just recapping a series without being too serious, and I love it. Anyway, consider subscribing. I'll see you around. Anna Baxter out.